To kick off episode number 2, we're going to look at all of the transfers that happened in season number 2. Now, if you remember at the end of the first episode, there was around £8 million to spend, but the board only had £9 million as an overall balance. So I felt a bit guilty for trying to just blast that £8 million away. So I decided to try and sell some players to raise a bit more money. The first of which was Jorman Campuzano. He has gone to the Middle East for around £8 million. Now plays for Al Ain. He's one that is no great loss. 28 years old, Colombian. We'd already signed Vitor Andre really to play in a similar position, so we'd already got cover in that position. The next player to go was Luis Advincula. He again is a player that we kind of had already replaced by buying Gilberto. He was a right back. He has gone to Brazil and he now plays for Corinthians. We got about £4 million for him. Aaron Molinas is another one that went to Brazil. Got about £2.5–3 million for him. He now plays for Botafogo. And the final player to leave was Lucas Blondell, a Swiss player playing in Argentina. Got offers from a Swiss club, wanted to go to Switzerland. He has signed for Young Boys. So it meant that once we got all of that money put back in, there was around £20 million to spend. But I didn't want to spend it all because, as I said, the club's way of running was to have just enough money in the overall balance to cover the transfer balance, if that makes sense. So I tried to spend wisely. The first player that I went and bought was Lautaro Valenti. Now we bought him from Parma, and hopefully he ties in a little bit with the higher reputation players playing in Europe. He's one that we have lured back to Argentina. We paid around £6 million for him, so it was a good start to the transfer window. We then signed Bernardo, another young Brazilian who can play in the middle of the park. We signed him from Santos for around $750,000. He was an absolute bargain. And another player at the age of 19 that should develop nicely in the save. The next player we bought was Ramon Mieres. And once again, we went to Europe and we bought a player back to Argentina. This time we went to Osijek and we bought the Argentinian back. He's a player who should be fantastic for this club. He, in the long term, will be replacing Edison Cavani. Built similar, 6 foot, strong player, good balance, good heading of the ball. Also has decent finishing. I think he will score a lot of goals in this save. The next player to come in was Kayan Fermo. Again, a right back, so really replacing Advincula, even though we'd already done that. We now have signed 2 Palmeiras right backs to develop as we go through the save. Next up was Brian Palacios. So we're getting into the territory now of signing nearly a whole squad. But he's another player at the age of 22. Ties in with the Colombian players that the supporters want. And this one was only around £3 million. And I think he's a bargain considering his pace, his acceleration, crossing, dribbling and those kinds of things. And the final player to come in was Thiago Costa. He's a Brazilian who was at Benfica. So once again, going and raiding the European clubs to bring South American players home. Now, he isn't the finished article at the age of 20 and certainly will be a rotation piece, but I think he could go on to have a good career at the club. So with all of the transfer business concluded and a big swapping of the first team squad, how will the players bed in? Can they get straight to it, hit the ground running? Let's see how we got on in the competitions in season 2. Once again, Boca Juniors would play in a lot of competitions this season, so bear with me as I run through these. The first of which is the Argentine International Super Cup. Once again, played against Patronato, and we beat them 6-0. Up next was the Supercopa Argentina. We played against River Plate. We managed to win this one 2-1. After a disappointing showing in the Copa Argentina Axion Energy last season, we wanted to go certainly one better than the 5th round. So we entered the competition in the 5th round, drawn against Institutio, and we beat them 6-3. In the 6th round, we would play against All Boys. We beat them 7-1. In the 7th round, we were drawn against Banfield. We beat them 2-1. In the quarterfinals, we'll be drawn against Temperley. We beat them 4-3. In the semi-finals, we would come up against Atlanta. We beat them 2-0. And that meant that in the final, we would play against River Plate and we would win the Copa Argentina Axion Energy 2-0 against River Plate. Another competition that we would look to improve on last season in was the Copa Libertadores. Once again, we would be drawn in Group E. This time we would face off against Colo Colo, Águilas Doradas and Liverpool FC. This time we would play 6 games. We would win 4, draw 1, lose 1, had a goal difference of 12, and we would go through with 13 points. That would put us through to the second round. We would be drawn against Millonarios FC, beat them 4-3 on aggregate. In the quarterfinals, be drawn against Union, where we'd beat them 3-2 over 2 legs. In the semi-finals, we would come up against River Plate, we'd beat them 4-3 on aggregate. And that meant in the final, we would play against Flamengo and we would go on and win the Copa Libertadores for the very first time, beating Flamengo 2-0. Let's have a little look at that final and show you exactly what happened. So goals from Janssen and Barco secured my first Copa Libertadores. Once again, that leaves us with the Argentine League, and this again is complicated with the 2 different phases. So the first phase, we would go on and play 41 games, amassing 100 points impressively. This time we would play 41 times, we would win 31 of them, draw 7, lose 3, have a 76 goal difference and get 100 points to win the league by 12 points from Racing Club. River Plate could only get 78. Last season we didn't have many goal scorers who were in the top of the list. This season we have the top 2 in the league. We have Lucas Janssen scoring 34 goals and Ramon Mieres, as I said, 28 goals. I said that he would score goals and would be the long-term replacement for Cavani. It might have actually happened in the short term. In the average ratings, Janssen got 7.79 and he got 14 assists. He also got 11 Player of the Match awards, and Marcos Rojo got himself 12 yellow cards. So in the second part of the Argentine League, we would go into the group phase where we were put in Group A this time. And this time around, we would play 14 games. We would win 9 of them, draw 4, have 1 loss. We would score 40, concede 24 for a goal difference of 16. And that would give us 31 points. We would win that part of that phase by 5 points. Up next, we go into the quarter-finals where we were drawn against Estudiantes. We beat them 5-1. In the semi-finals, we would come up against Talleres and we would beat them on penalties after a 2-2 draw. And that meant we were in the final once again. And in the final, we would beat Lanús 3-0. Fantastic way to round out the league competitions. And in that final, an own goal from Di Piacido, a Mieres goal and a Bernardo penalty in the 96th minute was enough for us to secure another Argentine League title. So, as I said, it's a bit crazy having these 2 different phases. I suppose it works for them in real life. But what an absolutely tremendous season. Every single competition we have entered, we have ended up winning. I don't know how we're going to top this season, but let's have a look at the finances and see what's available to us for Season 3. So once again, in the finances, I need to point out that this club just does not make money. We have won every single competition that was available to us, and we still only have an overall balance of £9.4 million. But we do have a transfer budget of £11.5 million. So it means that if we want to keep this club healthy, they are really going to be relying on selling players. Now, I have done my utmost to keep players like Barco because I know what he's worth to the club. But it gets to a point where we may need to cash in sooner rather than later just to keep the club afloat. So as I said, a transfer budget of £11.5 million, a wage budget of £546,000 and an overall balance of £9.4 million. We look at the club vision then. In terms of the job security, it's secure. We get a B from the board this time around. In terms of the objectives, work within the wage budget on course, grow the club's reputation pleased, maintain the club's status as the most reputable team in Argentina. their reserving judgment. The informational objectives now: maximum 1-year contracts for over 32s and minimum 3-year contracts for first team players. For next season, they want to reach the latter stages of the Copa Libertadores and they want to win the Torneo Binance. If we look at the supporters' feedback, we get a B from them too. Once again, disappointed with the lack of Colombian players we're signing, but they want to develop players using the club's youth system, and they are delighted with that. For the expectations, they want to finish above River, Racing Club, Independiente, San Lorenzo, which we are achieving, and they want to maintain the club's status as the most reputable team in Argentina too. So at this stage, we are getting some really good feedback. I would like that job security to be a little bit more than secure, but I think we're doing a good job as we are heading into Season 3. So let's have a look at the squad. Let's have a look at the squad then as we are heading into season number 3. So once again, we're going to go about this 2 different ways. Firstly, my best 11, or the best 11 that I feel going into season 3. We'll have a run through that. Then we'll look at the assistant manager's best 11 to see where the gaps are and see where we might need to improve the squad. So to kick me off, I'm going to go with Romero, Barco, Valentini, Figao and Gilberto. We then have Vitor, Andre, Fernandez and Bernardo as my midfield 3. Jansen on the left, Palacios on the right, Mieres now up top. As I said, Mieres has come in and he has displaced Cavani straight away. Look at the stats on this: 42 league games, 28 goals, 7 assists, 5 player of the match awards and a 7.31 average rating in his first season. Overall, he played 60 times, scoring 46 goals and chipping in with a further 10 assists. He's been an absolute bargain of a signing. Palacios has come in also. He played quite a few games in the first season as well. 15 league games, 4 goals. Overall, 24 games and 5 goals. On the left-hand side, Jansen once again was voted Argentina's best player. Looking at his stats, 36 league games, 34 goals, 14 assists, 11 player of the match awards. Over the season, 50 appearances, 42 goals, 13 of those were penalties, 19 assists. Absolutely fantastic. Average rating of 7.79 across the season. We then have Bernardo in the middle. He's played some really good football since he has been at the club. He played in 51 total games last season, 36 in the league with 12 goals and a 7.01 average rating. Vitor Andre has become the anchor of the midfield, playing in 36 league games, scoring 5 goals, and 53 games, scoring 7 overall in all competitions. And then Valentini has now took over as our main centre-back. He had himself a decent season. Did only play in 14 games, but the games that he was called upon, he really did play well, and that's kind of now put him above Rojo in the pecking order. Barco is coming along nicely also, as I said, kind of forcing him against his will to stay at the club. Really wants to move away, but I really want to keep him. And then on the other side, Gilberto is also developing nicely as a footballer, and I do think that we have now 2 really good right backs, both of which came from Palmeiras. If we go into the squad planner, have a little look at the best 11 according to the assistant manager. So it's Bray in goal, Sirachi, Valenti, Figao and Weigand, Fernandez, Bernardo, Medina, Jansen, Villa and Mieres. So we both agree on Mieres and Jansen. Villa is getting him in his best 11. Then Bernardo, Medina and Fernandez. He puts Valenti, and yeah, the right back of Weigand is an interesting one because I don't really rate him as a player, and I think he's one that probably will be moved on pretty soon anyway. Looking at the report then, so once again, lots of youth prospects in the first team and around the first team. Player partnership of Fernandez and Medina in the middle of the park. Best player form is Gonzalo Morales, who had an 8.90 in his last 5 matches. The weaknesses: handling, overall depth, reflexes, long throws, punching, so goalkeeping stats seem to be a weakness. Leadership, not enough leaders. Player struggling for form as Esteban Rolon, could do with depth in goal. Yeah, so there it is. I think we need a goalkeeper. I think Romero's doing a good enough job. My assistant obviously doesn't, because he doesn't rate him all of a sudden, and I think that that's probably going to be a priority going forwards unless Romero decides to leave, which will then bring it forward even further. Looking at the competitions one last time then, we have had a fantastic season. We have won every single thing that we have entered. How are we going to top this in Season 3? The only thing I can think we can do is just go and do it all again. Right then, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, I really would appreciate that. Cannot thank you all enough for the support across the past couple of months. It really has been fantastic. Before you go, don't forget there are other videos on the channel, such as Let's Plays, hints, tips, tutorials, Wonder Kids, a lot of FM24 content now on the channel. For this one though, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. I'll see you on another video very soon.